Things just took a major turn for the Pittsburgh Steelers as ahead of their crucial game tonight against the Bengals, a brand new injury update has dropped surrounding one player that not only has big implications ahead of tonight's game, but changes the landscape of the game. We're going to break that down, as well as a few other interesting updates and some quotes that have came out. So a ton to go over on this episode, but before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you're excited for the game this evening and you want to enjoy daily Steelers content, this is the place to be. Thank you guys for your continued support over here, and make sure to hit that button, folks. A lot to go over today. As I covered in the video yesterday, there are trade talks happening, there are a ton of things going on, but most importantly right now is the game this evening against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers have a chance to really take a stranglehold on the division here with a win, and there is a lot of things to go over about the game. But let's start with an update that dropped very recently, and it is surrounding, of course, the player that all of us, whether you're a Bengals fan or, of course, most likely if you're here, a Steelers fan, have been keeping an eye out on all week. From Ian Rappaport, Bengals edge Trey Hendrickson is considered a bit of a long shot to play on Thursday. Now, if you've been following along, keeping up with the injury updates over the past few days as this game inched closer and closer, he was at some points considered not likely to play, but there was a chance that he plays. Now, according to Ian Rappaport this morning, is a very big long shot that he plays. And obviously, he is an absolutely fantastic defensive player. I don't need to, overstate how good he is, but this is super important for Aaron Rodgers. It's super important for the Steelers in general. And as we look into the injury report for, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals at this point, let's start with the Steelers and let's go through the full injury report as of today. Couple of injury updates here. Calvin Austin, he remains out. And I'll go back to Trey Hendrickson in a minute here. He's seemingly at this point going to be unavailable for tonight's game, which is very, very good for Aaron Rodgers. But keep going here. Obviously, Rodgers is going to be playing. Calvin Austin out yet again this week. Going to be interesting to see what happens after the game tonight, heading into next week, what happens with him. Miles Killebrew also out. Malik Harrison seemingly going to be out as well. Deshaun Elliott, he is the biggest one that is still questionable at this point. Of course, he's dealing with personal, he's out for personal reasons. Prayers up for him. Hopefully everything is good on his side. But from a pure football perspective, they desperately need him back, right? They need him at least for this game against the Bengals. And I covered in the video earlier, I don't want to underestimate the Bengals heading into tonight's game. We all thought the Browns game was going to be a bit of a trap game. Luckily, they figured it out. They got the win against the Browns. But this, on paper, seems like a bit of a trap game. Now, we know two quarterbacks going at it tonight. I mean, you can see here, this game versus the Bengals is the first divisional matchup in NFL history featuring two starting quarterbacks that are 40-plus years old. Their combined age is 81, and you can obviously see there the betting odds, not that it really matters, are in the Steelers' hands here. This is it's going to be a very interesting one. Now, without Deshaun Elliott makes things very, very difficult. And obviously, the Bengals still have a ton of talent, right? We obviously know that. They have Jamar Chase, mainly Joe Flacco, who I think is going to try to get the ball to Jamar Chase. Will Deshaun Elliott play? If not, the other secondary is going to have to step up. And at the end of the day here, I have full faith in this team. The defense has looked really, really good as of late. Deshaun Elliott, whether or not he's available, is still yet to be seen. He's going to be pretty crucial here. But going back to Trey Hendrickson for a minute, you can see here from the Bengals side of things, he is questionable, which has kind of been, I would assume at this point, been downgraded to doubtful because of the new reports that have dropped here surrounding, of course, Trey Hendrickson. And then some other updates on this front is Charlie Jones and, of course, Lucas Patrick. But, of course, the biggest one being defensive end Trey Hendrickson. Let me know down below where your confidence level is with or without Trey Hendrickson. I think either way, they're in a very good spot. They should win this game. There's no doubt about it. And the biggest thing to keep an eye out on is, of course, Hendrickson's availability, but also Deshaun Elliott's availability. And then, of course, to see if Jabril Peppers will be able to step up in Deshaun Elliott's absence if he's not available. He's had some decent games. Of course, he signed him recently this offseason. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. A very, fortunate turn of events if Trey Hendrickson does end up missing the game, which it does seem like he did. Didn't practice at all this week as well, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but there was some increased optimism that he'd be available. He ultimately isn't, which opens up, of course, Aaron Rodgers, gives him a bit more time in the pocket to hopefully, keep finding DK Metcalf for his 5th straight touchdown in as many weeks. But there are a few other things I want to go over ahead of tonight's game, and I'm going to dive back into this graphic a little bit, the TJ Watt versus Myles Garrett discourse. It started to get some more traction here recently. But let's dive into some of the keys of the game. Now, with Trey Hendrickson out, of course, we know the Steelers are going to be aggressive like they have been. But there's some interesting stats that have started to emerge, and I want to get your guys' opinion on it here. And this is about, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers and, of course, as well, the Bengals here. Now, I covered this in the video a few days ago, but the Steelers defense is making progress with the pass rush. And this is something that I want to reiterate today because, of course, you're going up against a quarterback in Joe Flacco who is very capable of doing very good things. Not with his feet, though, right? I just showed you guys the combined age. He's not going to be running the football, just like Aaron Rodgers is, not going to run the football very much. But, the Steelers defense started the season very slowly. Last year, of course, started off pretty well. But the Steelers have 20 sacks in 2025, including 6 in Week 6. So that stat's being carried a little bit following their last week performance against the Browns, which maybe they're re-energized a little bit, following their bye week in Week 5, but or whatever it was. The Bengals have allowed 16 sacks in 2025, but with Flacco in the lineup last week, they gave up a season-low 1 sack to the Packers. So this is something to keep an eye on. How will the Steelers pass rush do against Joe Flacco? If you can get to him early, that'll obviously be crucial. However, something else to keep in mind here within this matchup, and feel free to read some of the advanced analytics here about, 30th in plays per drive and 28th in yards per drive. The Steelers are managing to pull off some crazy stuff given their lackluster advanced metrics numbers. Like being 30th in plays per drive and 28th in yards per drive is a little bit crazy. Now we know Aaron Rodgers has been throwing the ball to shorter distances, getting a lot of completions. They're 20th in third down conversion rate, and as we know, they don't go for it much on fourth down because they have the best kicker in football, so you don't want to obviously force it too much. Take points when you can get them. We know that Mike Tomlin, or if you didn't know, Mike Tomlin, of course, is a historically not great on Thursday nights. He's 9 wins, 11 losses, and 2-8 on those on the road. So there is some hurdles to get over, and you can argue that the Browns game was a bigger trap game than this game. You can also argue the other side, that this is probably the biggest trap game of them all. You are going up against Joe Flacco, who can randomly flip the script at any moment. Didn't have a great game last week, but I'm not terribly, overconfident, but I'm also not super, concerned about the game. At the end of the day, Steelers are a better team. They should win. The Bengals don't have Joe Burrow. They probably won't have Trey Hendrickson. And Aaron Rodgers, on the bright side, despite Mike Tomlin's moderate struggles on Thursday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers is pretty good. He's 13-6, and he's obviously going to be the one who's manning. He's going to have the most impact on the team there. And with some of the other injuries, they'll be in very, very good shape, I think, heading into tonight's game. But again, at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin, this is a big game for him to see. If they go 5-1, they're in a very, very good spot, no matter how you look at it. And of course, the Ravens. The Steelers have a pretty rough schedule here the rest of the year. Ravens' schedule softens up a little bit. Can Joe Flacco get out of this game without being injured? There's a ton of storylines, but at the end of the day, keep an eye out on the Steelers' pass rush. See if they can continue the momentum they've had here following their struggles in the first few weeks, and then of course, seeing how they can continue to score while having some poor stats throwing the ball, even though they've been throwing the ball pretty well. And you can see there in the last paragraph, one final note before I wrap up, they're about to play the Bengals, who are going to be without most likely Trey Hendrickson. The Bengals are 31st in yards allowed per game and 30th in points allowed per game. So I'm looking for a DK Metcalf touchdown. I'm looking for, of course, the run game to continue getting involved. They did a really good job last week in getting everyone involved. And the Bengals are also, I believe, the worst team in the league in terms of yards after the catch allowed per game. So let me know down below your thoughts on all this. Obviously, Hendrickson being out is a huge, assuming he's out again, a bit of a long shot to play, is a huge turning point. Hopefully, they can take care of business. See you guys later.